Armand Mellis is one of the creepiest cannibal cases. In the history, Armand Mellis was from Germany, who achieved international notoriety for killing and eating Baron Braun. This found his victim as a volunteer via the internet after MIA was sent. The victim jointly attempted to eat the victim's penis. Mellis was killed his victim and proceeded to eat large amounts of his flesh he had found his volunteer on the website called The Cannibal Cafe. Many people responded to his posting, but all black out except for Blunts, and they recorded it all on a 2 hours long video.
Armin Mellis. I was born 1961. I'm computer engineer from Rothenburg, Germany. I killed a man, slaughtered him and ate him. Since then, he is always with me. We've been emailing and chatting on the internet since January, and we talked about exactly what would happen. Bernd had very bizarre ideas and guidelines how he had planned his end. When he actually stepped off the train, I was nervous and excited.
We arrived home, and he went straight into the living room and undressed, so that I could admire dinner, or my dinner, he said.
Oder mein Essen bewundern kann. Er sah toll aus.
He looked good. He had a sporty figure, as I'd imagined. He was a very nice, lovely man.
Und
We'd discussed everything beforehand, including the camera, which should be switched on because he wanted to see for himself what it was like when we did the amputation. Around 6:15 or 6:30 in the evening, he said, "I can't stand it anymore. Cut it off." The second time it happened relatively quickly. It only took a couple of seconds to cut it a few times. Then he gave the most awful yell, but not for long, only around 20 to 30 seconds. Ow, ow, ow. Then he said, "All I can see is blackness. I have to sit down." A few seconds later he told me that it didn't hurt anymore. He was astonished, because he'd hoped for more pain. He said to me, "Cut it in half." So I cut it in half with a knife and took both parts downstairs to the kitchen. First of all, I washed them and blanched them. It took a few moments for the water to boil. And then I seasoned it with salt, pepper and garlic powder and fried it for a short time. But the meat was so fresh that it shriveled up in the pan and wasn't really edible. I was relatively quick preparing it all, because I thought that because he had such a massive wound, he'd feel faint quite quickly. But he didn't feel faint, and he tried to eat it, and he was disappointed that he couldn't, that it wasn't edible. Around 2:30 in the morning, I heard him stumble upstairs. He collapsed in front of the bed. Then he tried to stand up, collapsed again, and didn't regain consciousness. At that moment, I didn't know what to do. I asked myself whether I should pray to the devil or God. And I asked God for forgiveness. Then I took the knife, grasped it in my hand, and after hesitating some more, I cut his throat with it. Then in the slaughter room, after he was dead, I separated the head from his body. I hung him from the ceiling. Then I removed his organs and cut him in half. I poured hot water over the two halves and washed the body. I had prepared the meal as a special occasion and decorated the table with nice candles. I took out my best dinner service. I fried a piece of rump steak, a piece from his back, made what are called princess potatoes, and Brussels sprouts. Then, after I'd prepared my meal, I ate it. The first bite was, of course, very strange. It was a feeling I can't really describe. I'd spent over 40 years, 30 years, longing for it, dreaming about it. And now I was getting the feeling that I was actually achieving this perfect inner connection through his flesh. Flesh tastes like pork, but stronger, more substantial. Although I don't think that other people would have noticed the difference had they eaten it. It tasted really good.
Otis Elwood Toole was a self-confessed serial killer and cannibal who admitted to many murders and was the suspect in many more unsolved murders, some of which he committed with his friend Henry Lee Lucas. Toole was convicted of murder twice and confessed to 4 more murders, for which he was convicted by a court of law. Toole admitted to the killing of Adam Walsh, the young son of John Walsh, the creator and host of the television program America's Most Wanted. America Fights Back, 1988. Although never proven, Walsh believed that Toole was the murderer of his son. Toole was raised in Jacksonville, Florida in a broken home. His father ran away when he was a child. His mother was a religious fanatic. And his grandmother was a Satanist. While his sister dressed the young boy in girls' clothes to play with him. Toole's satanic granny allegedly involved him in various occult practices, including robbing graves for body parts to be used in her fiendish rituals.
What do you prefer in life? Sex or fire?
Well, I like both. I like both.
Yeah.
I guess I like both. Baby it is, there it is. I'm what you call a power maniac. A power maniac can be most anything, but I'm what you call a power maniac. I like to see a whole city burned down. A whole city. I like to see a whole city. Like the tallest building I could see up. I like to see a whole thing. Do it.
What do you feel when you see it? What do you feel?
Oh yeah, sexual. Yeah, sexy. Yeah, yeah. The excitement you have. You know when you get the excitement's really pleasure. If you are a serial killer, you can't really stabilize it. But if it's done in a pattern, the same way all the time, or the same kind of weapon, it ain't it's a pattern, the same way. Otherwise you're losing the same thrill all the time, in the same matter of way. But if you're doing it all kind of different ways, it ain't no pattern. I mean, you do more than one the same kind of way. But if you change the pattern, See, otherwise, if you really do things like that, there ain't no pattern. If you do it different kind of ways. That's why they have different numbers, you see. It's a different pattern, different figures, different patterns.
Is it hard to kill?
It doesn't make a difference. Really, a person's a killer anyhow. It don't make a difference who he is. If you stomp on a bug, you're still killing someone, you see. Or you kill a hog, you're still killing someone. So it don't make a difference what you kill, really. And then if you need to cut out somebody, it's just like butchering a hog, you see, or a cow. Ain't no difference. It's just no different, I reckon. Put your little bit of barbecue sauce on it. Go to town and get it roasted. Not unless you want it raw.
Do you remember the first time? The first few times?
Ain't nothing to tell. Just like that. I said, just like talking to fingers, just like that. Once you get into it, ain't nothing to it. Just like drinking a cup of coffee, smoking a cigarette. Once you get into the habit, you do it more and more. It's just a steady thing. You know? I mean, some people do it different, you say. Some of them hate women, some of them hate men. You got some of what you call love hate, you say. Different kind of people, you know. Only kind of person I never killed. I never killed a child.
You have news from Henry?
There needs to be love, as you say. But that love come in the hate. Kill that bitch, I have to catch up with her. And I'll cut his dick off and shove it in his mouth. And then take a baseball bat and run it straight from his mouth to his ass. Just deep as I can jump. If I had to take like a stock, run it all the way down. And let it come out his ass. And then put him on a barbecue pit. And all them police out there on the street don't even tell us a dead person, you know. After they eat it and then say, well, you just ate a human body, you see. That's what I would do. And that's what I am. Ain't no past. But I don't understand myself. I reckon you got to understand yourself before you can understand anything else. I just don't understand it.